Hello everyone. Let me first start this presentation by introducing myself. My name is Timothy Karnowicz. I'm a CPA and a certified financial planner. My office is in downtown Brooklyn. As some of you may already know, I've been working very closely with Unique Nurses Registry for many years now. Since the management at Unique is very concerned about your financial well-being while the schools are temporarily shut down, they've asked me to put together a little presentation to make sure that you're all aware of the benefits that the government has made available to you during this difficult time that we are all facing. I've tried to make the presentation as simple and straightforward as possible. With that in mind, let's get started. So let me get my pointer going. First off, I'm going to address the tax filing deadlines for the tax returns you normally file. Next, I'm going to address the Payroll Protection Program, which you've probably heard a lot about, otherwise known as the PPP loans. Then I want to address how you can get those PPP loans forgiven after you receive them. That's something that you would apply for down the road. Fourth, I want to teach you how to apply for the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. That's unemployment benefits that are available to independent contractors and self-employed individuals. And fifth and last, I want to determine which program may be right for you. So first off, as I'm sure most people have already heard, they've changed the filing deadline this year from April 15th to July 15th. And it's not necessary to file an extension either. It's automatic that it's switched to July 15th. In addition to that, if you're paying estimated tax payments, which some of you may be set up to pay that, whereas independent contractors, some of us pay our taxes quarterly. The first payment is due April 15th, the second payment is due June 15th, the third payment is due September 15th, and the fourth payment is due January 15th of the following year. So for this year only, the payment that's due April 15th and the second payment due June 15th have both been changed to July 15th. So you can hold off on making your estimated tax payments for both of those quarters for July 15th. So if you're making quarterly payments and you want to wait, you have to make the June payment and the April payment on July 15th. And then your third payment would be due 2 months later on September 15th. In addition, some of you may be making contributions to IRAs, solo 401ks, SEP accounts, simple accounts. In those scenarios, you can also extend the due date to July 15th. Normally, contributions for the tax year 2019 have to be made no later than April 15th, but they've also extended the due date for those payments to July 15th, and they would still apply for 2019. In addition, New York State has adopted these changes just exactly as the federal has, with no need to file an extension. So let's move forward and take a look at the filing for the PPP loan application. So part of the CARES Act that was passed by Congress at the end of March included a provision called the Payroll Protection Loan Program. Initially, it first started a week and a half ago just for small businesses. Then, as of last Friday, they started accepting applications for independent contractors and sole proprietors such as yourself. And initially there was a lot of confusion as to what was acceptable and what was not, what you could file for, what the loan provisions enabled you to apply for. So as of this previous Tuesday, April 14th, the Treasury issued more guidelines on exactly what you're eligible for, which is what delayed us from issuing this presentation to you guys. So basically, you would have to look at your Schedule C. So when you file as an independent contractor, as a sole proprietor, your accountant should be filing a Schedule C for you, which I'll show you momentarily. And you're going to take line 31 of your Schedule C. It's pretty straightforward. Your tax return for 2019 does not have to have already been filed, but you do have to prepare your Schedule C, and it should be done accurately. So you should take the gross income off your Schedule C. Then I also want you to take your 1099s, because lots of times your gross on your Schedule C, it's possible, may not be the same as your 1099s. Maybe you worked for a couple of people where they didn't issue you a 1099, but you included that in your gross income. So I want you to provide both of those lines. They may or may not be exactly the same. If you only worked for Unique and you received a 1099, then most likely it's going to be identical. Okay, so you're going to go to your Schedule C. You're going to take the line 31, which is your net profit. That's after you deduct all your expenses. So your net profit, whatever that line shows, is what you're going to enter in this line right here. Then it's capped at 100,000. So if this number here that says 89,759 is over 100,000, you have to subtract out the amount that's over 100. So for instance, let's just say instead of 89,759, it said 102,000. You'd have to enter 2,000 on this next line, subtract it out, so that the maximum amount capped at 100,000, as I have here in parentheses, this number will be capped at 100. This number here can never be higher than 100,000 for the year, because even if you make more money, they will not give you a loan for more than 100, based on more than $100,000 of net profit for the year. So in this situation that I used for Sadie Richards, I just made up the numbers. You're going to take the 89,759 right off her tax return. It's on line 31 of her Schedule C. Then you're going to divide that number by 12 to come up with a monthly net income amount. So in her situation, the net monthly amount will be $7,480, and then they're going to use a loan factor of 2.5. So the amount that you would be eligible for to apply for under the PP Protection Loan Program is $18,700 in this example. And keep in mind that these figures are just examples that I used under this mock tax return that I prepared. Your numbers, of course, will be different. So let's take a look at the numbers now. I'm going to show you a Schedule C. So here's the Schedule C. So let me just get the highlighter. So you're going to first look for your gross. This is your gross right here, the number I'm highlighting here, the 100,000 that I used in the previous example where I said your gross income. Then underneath that, you're going to enter what you have for your 1099s. You'll look at your 1099s, add them up. If you only have one and it adds up to that, it's pretty easy. If you have multiple 1099s, if you work for multiple companies, you may have more than one 1099. And as I said, you could have income that was not reported on a 1099 that you have included in here. So I want you to put the total of your gross, and then underneath that, the total of your 1099s. And then you're going to take this number right here, right off your Schedule C, line 31 that I just highlighted. That is the number that's going to be there for your net income, Schedule C, line 31. Okay, let's just go back to that preparing the application one more time. I also included the business use of home form, which will come into play later on, because part of the protection loan program allows you not only to receive money to cover your monthly expenses, which is your payroll cost that we calculated, but you're also allowed to include payments for utilities, rent, mortgage, but only the amount that's allocated to your home office. So your accountant should have prepared a Form 8829, expenses for business use of home. And on that, they would take an allocation of the square footage of your home or your apartment, wherever you live, and say what percentage of where I live is allocated to my home office. And then that percentage, here we used 15%. Her total square footage of her apartment was 1,000 square feet. 150 square feet was her office, so 15% was allocated for her business. Then she's able to take that percentage of all these expenses, her monthly utilities, her monthly rent. If you paid a mortgage, it would be your monthly mortgage, only the interest on your mortgage, and then all your utilities. And if you have renter's insurance or homeowner's insurance, that would qualify as well. So you're able to take the percentage here. So for Miss Sadie Richards, the total came out to $3,368 for the year. And that will come into play later on when you try to apply for loan forgiveness, because part of what you can use the loan for is to pay for these monthly utilities, rent, or mortgage, in addition to just your general living expenses, to get the loan forgiven down the road. So let's just move on. Let me get my pointer back. Okay, so just to reiterate, to go over this one last time, we're going to take off the Schedule C that I just showed you, the gross. Then the next line, I want you to add up all your 1099s. The reason I'm doing this is because a lot of applications will ask you for this information. Then you're going to take line 31 in the example I just showed you. It was the 89,759. If you're over 100,000 on that number, you're going to subtract the amount over 100, so you're capped at 100. In this example for Sadie Richards, we're at 89,759. You're going to divide that by 12 months to come up with a monthly figure. The monthly amount is 7,480. The loan factor is 2.5, so the eligible loan amount that you will apply for is $18,700. Now, let's talk about completing a standard loan application. So, the first thing you would want to do is you would want to go to the portal of the bank that you have a current banking relationship with, because unfortunately, the vast majority of banks are not accepting applications from non-customers. They're very far and few between to find. So you would want to go to the bank that you have a current banking relationship with. As far as I know, all the banks are doing it, except I'm aware that Capital One has decided not to accept the applications for this program at all. They did not want to get involved. But all the other banks, as far as I know, offer this program. So you would probably there'll be a link on the home page of the bank that says apply for the COFAD PPP application or apply for the PPP loan. It'll say something to that effect that I have written there on line 2. So then you would fill out the bank application. Some of the banks may ask you to have the form 2483 before applying online, which I'll show you a copy of. And below I've provided you a link to fill out that form on the SBA website. That link below will take you right to the form, and you can fill out the form. It's a 2-page form. It's pretty straightforward, and it's going to ask you the information that we just used in part 1 when we determined the eligible loan amount. So, but like for instance, Chase does not ask you to fill out the 8483 form before you do their application. They will just do it for you in the application process. TD Bank, on the other hand, wants you to have that form already completed and signed, and you will have to upload it, scan it, and upload it onto their website to complete the process. So when filling out the application, make sure you do the following. Indicate that you are an independent contractor, because there will be questions at the top of the application as to what are you. Are you a sole proprietor? Are you a corporation? Are you an S corporation? Are you a not-for-profit? Make sure you check the box, I'm an independent contractor. That will be one of the choices on all the applications I've seen. If you don't see an independent contractor, then the next thing is sole proprietor. But I would pick independent contractor if the two of them are there. That's the one you should pick. When it asks you how many employees you have, if you enter 0, because you technically don't have employees, I've seen on applications where it does not go through. It tells you an error message. So put 1. And 1 would be for yourself, because basically you work for yourself. And then the application is going to ask you how many new jobs you can plan to create with this funding of the loan. And your answer is going to be 0. You're not looking to create any new jobs. Then it's going to ask you how many jobs you maintain. You're going to put 1 because you're going to maintain your own job. The point of this as an independent contractor is to get money to maintain your own living expenses while you go through this. So for the next 8 weeks, 2 months. So you're your own employee. Let's see. So most banks at the end of the application also will ask you, how are these funds going to be used? So there'll be little boxes to fill in. So the monthly payroll costs they'll ask you. So you're going to, as the example, you can go back to part 1. We figured out the monthly cost for her, Sadie Richards, was $7,480. You're going to times that by 2 because this loan is for 2 months, 8 weeks. That's it. So you're going to times that by 2. So that's going to go in that box. Then it's going to ask you how much of the loan is going to be used for rent, how much is going to be used for utilities. If you have a mortgage, how much of it is going to be used for mortgage interest. For Sadie Richards, she used rent, not interest on her loan, on a mortgage, but you'll take 2 months of rent and stick that number in here. And then honestly, to make it come out so that the loan at the bottom here, the total has to equal the amount that you're eligible for the loan, the amount that you're applying for. So these numbers have to add up to the same amount of a loan application. So what I normally do, because it's hard to get it to tie in exactly, The first number you want to be exact, right off your Schedule C. Your monthly payroll cost divided by 12 times 2 will give you that number. Next, you could put in your rent and utilities. You put that in usually just to make sure everything ties in. If you were going to use your mortgage interest, then you would look at that Form 8829, the business use of home. You'd look at the total interest paid for 2019 on your mortgage. You divide that by 12 and times it by 2, and then that would give you the mortgage interest for 2 months, roughly. I mean, these numbers are going to vary. They're rough estimates. The utilities, the rent, the mortgage interest is always going to change from month to month. So these are going to vary slightly. They don't have to be as accurate. But the one number I would recommend that be accurate is the first one. The bulk of the money is used to support your monthly living expenses, which is taken right off your Schedule C, which I showed you before. And then I would put in the rent or the mortgage interest, and then to foot it, I would add utilities, whatever number you need to put in there to make it tie in. Okay? And when you complete the application, most likely you'll have to provide the following information. You'll have to upload it, so you'll have to have it scanned onto your computer. Maybe if you're not familiar with that, then maybe one of your friends or relatives can help you with that. But you'll most likely need a New York State ID or passport. Some of the applications say, for instance, Chase. If you have a Chase account, you're going to log into your Chase account, and then you're going to fill out the application when you're in your Chase portal already logged into your account. And Chase will pre-fill everything already, the name of your business, you're a sole proprietor, your address, your social security number, your phone number. It will all be pre-filled. TD Bank, for instance, does not, even though you have an account with them, and they will ask you what your account number is at TD Bank to verify that you have an account, they do not pre-fill any of the application. You still have to fill in the application and enter everything from scratch. So some banks may require you to provide a New York State ID or passport. Chase, for instance, does not. TD Bank, which I did one earlier today, they did require a New York State ID or passport be uploaded. All banks are going to require you then to upload your Schedule C for 2019. And as I said before, it does not have to have been filed yet. It can just be prepared and ready to be filed. As I said, the filing deadline was changed to July 15th. So if you're like most independent contractors and you owe a little bit of money on your tax return, why are you going to file it? You may wait till July 15th or close to it before you file. But you still want to have the form prepared accurately and ready to go so that you can upload it to their portal when you finish the application. Then they're also going to want to see a copy of your 1099s. So if you have only one from Unique, you'll just upload it. If you have multiples, you upload those. And then some of the banks will have that Form 8483 that I provided you the link for above to fill out, and they want you to have that signed, filled out, and submitted. Chase, for instance, does not require that. As I said, they actually incorporate that form within their own little application and pre-fill everything for you. TD Bank wants you to do this form on your own, print it off, fill it out, sign it, and that's another form that you would upload once you complete the application. So let's take a look at that Form 8483. So before we take a look at that Form 8483, I just wanted to go back one more time to show you what we talked about at the very beginning, how to calculate your monthly payroll costs. And as I said to you, when they fill out the application with the bank and they ask you how the funds are going to be used, with this example with Sadie Richards, you're going to go the main number, the biggest part of the loan is going to be to cover your monthly costs, which is going to be from your Schedule C divided by 12, comes up with that number. You come up with 2 times, and that's that 14,000 and change number that I put down. And then after that, I had the utilities, the rent, or the mortgage interest. So now let's take a look at that Form 8483. So if the bank requires you to fill out the 8483 first, you'll have to log onto your portal and see if they want you to do that. Like I had mentioned, Chase does not require, TD Bank does. I'm not familiar with all the different banks, so you'll have to log on and see what they require. So if they require you to do the 8483 first, you will have to go to that portal. You can actually, when you click on that link, you'll be able to fill out all of this stuff on your computer. You don't have to handwrite it. So it's pretty straightforward. It's going to ask you your name, your business address, if you have a tax ID number or a social security number. The vast majority of you are going to be just using your social security number. It's going to ask you for your primary contact, which is yourself, of course, and your email address. Then it's going to ask you for your average monthly payroll, which is the amount that we just figured, that 7,000 amount. That was the 89,000 divided by 12 comes up with the average monthly cost. So that's the amount that you would put in there. And this is this line here has to do with you have an EIDL loan. That's if you already took out a disaster loan, which I'm assuming the vast majority of you won't even apply. If any of you did, I can provide my contact information at the end of this little video, and you can contact me if you'd like any further assistance with that. But the vast majority of you did not take out a disaster loan in addition to this. So you would just put 0 there, and number of employees would put 1 for yourself. And then here where it says prepare, purpose of the loan, you're going to check payroll, you're going to click that, lease or mortgage, utilities, you're going to click all 3 of those. Then the owner is going to be yourself. Again, you're going to show your ownership interest. If you're an independent contractor, it's just you working by yourself. You're going to put 100%. You're going to put your social security number, and you're going to provide your address again. And then you're just going to answer these questions. Most of them are self-explanatory. When you read them, you're going to know exactly what to answer. They're going to ask you if you had hardship because of this situation, if you committed a crime, if you own another company, if you already applied for this application through another bank. You're going to pretty much know how to answer these questions. And this is page 2 of the application. So you just continue, then you have to initial here to make these certifications. Then at the end, you're going to sign and date. And that's it. It's just a 2-page application. And if the bank requires you to do that in advance, you'll fill this out, have it ready to go, sign it, date it, print your name, put your title as the owner, scan it into your computer, and have it ready to upload. So at the end of the application, you want to have your ID ready to go. You want to have your Schedule C scanned into your computer. You want to have this 8483 scanned in if you're going to need it. And you're going to want to have your 1099 scanned in, because all 4 of those documents most likely will need to be scanned up. Like I said, Chase will only require the Schedule C and the 1099. Some banks will require more. The most I've seen is an ID, the Schedule C, the 1099, and this Form 8483. So just to go back one more time to completing the application. Just one last time, just give you the rundown. We're going to take the average monthly cost when they ask you to fill it out, and they're going to say, what is the funds used for? Well, that's going to probably be one of the areas we're not going to be sure how to fill it out. You're going to take that number right off the Schedule C that we prepared in Part 1. You're going to take the monthly amount, which is what we calculated as $74.80, times that by 2. Then you're going to take the rent for 2 months, and then you're going to just fill in utilities to make it foot, I think, to get the 18.7 to match the amount of the loan, so that these 2 numbers here and the amount of the loan that you're applying for are equal. Okay. Now, the loan forgiveness process. Most of this money that you borrow from the bank is actually eligible to be forgiven, but that process will not start until 8 weeks after you've received the money. You're going to have to apply through your bank, the same bank that you got the application through and got the funding through. They will have another application for debt forgiveness. Those applications are not available yet, and we're not even sure exactly what they're going to look like or what documents they're going to ask for. But in the situation of an independent contractor, I would assume that the amount that is for your living expenses, the top number that we calculated, the over 14,000, is going to be forgiven automatically, because that's the same as someone that works for a company that gets a paycheck and their payroll check. As long as the company paid them their payroll, and that is forgiven for the company. So that amount should be forgiven for you as an independent contractor. What I think you're going to have to prove is the additional amount. You're going to have to show proof that you paid your utilities, continue to pay your rent, and that you paid your mortgage if you have mortgage interest. If you have a mortgage, you're going to have to show proof that you paid your mortgage every month for those 2 months. If you're delinquent and you decide, I'm not using this money to pay my mortgage, I'm not paying my landlord his rent, then they are going to make you pay back part of the loan. If they make you pay back part of the loan, it's only at 1% interest, and it's over 2 years, and the first payment doesn't start for 6 months. So it's still a very good deal. So here I did a sample calculation going back to Sadie Richards and her situation. She applied for $18,700. Let's say she got it, and then we're going to figure out the payments to herself. Again, we're back to that same, the net income on the Schedule C divided by 12 times 2 is the $14,960. My assumption is that that amount is going to be forgiven automatically. Next, you will have to provide proof of paying your rent or paying your mortgage and paying your utilities. In Sadie Williams' situation, I showed you that Form 8829, her amount was $33.68. So in this situation, if you add up the 2 months of that and the Schedule C line 30 amount, which is the business use of home, that's $18,328. She would have to pay back $372 in this situation, as long as she can show proof that she continued to pay her rent and paid her mortgage and her utilities for those 2 months. And so that's not a bad deal. She'd have to pay back $372, and the rest of the money would be forgiven, tax-free. Normally, when you have debt forgiveness, it's taxable income to you. But in this situation, it's tax-free income. You do not even have to pay tax on the money that they're not making you pay back. In this situation, the $18,328. She'll only pay back $372, that 1% interest over 2 years, and it doesn't start for 6 months. So depending on your situation and what your expenses are and how much of a loan you applied for, the amount of debt forgiveness could be the entire thing. You may owe back more. In the worst case scenario, if you, for whatever reason, couldn't pay your rent and you decided not to pay your rent, you'd get the $14,960 forgiven, and you'd have to pay back the difference, which would be $33.68 plus the $372. That number comes out to close to $3,800. So you'd have to pay that money back over 2 years at 1%. And that would be the worst case scenario if you didn't pay your rent and utilities for those 2 months. Okay, let's move on. So just one more time to show you the Form 8829 that I referred to. Most people should have this on their tax return because you are entitled to take a home office deduction as an independent contractor, because as an independent contractor, you're specifically not working in the company's office. You work independently. You do your paperwork, you keep your records at home, so you are allowed to take a home office deduction, as I explained before, and hopefully your accountant did that for you. If there is no 8829, you will probably just have to take your rent and utilities. You'll prepare an 8829 for yourself when the debt forgiveness point comes, and you'll probably have to mock one up, to figure out how big of an office you have in comparison to where your entire apartment or home, and then put your annual rent, utilities, mortgage interest in there for the prior year, and figure out what that number should be. And you can try to back into what's deductible for utilities, rent, or mortgage interest. So again, I just showed you the 8829, and that's the amount that's right here on this line B. So now we have one more thing here. You can apply for the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance for self-employed individuals and independent contractors. So as you know, as an independent contractor or sole proprietor, I'm sure you've known this or come across this situation. In the state of New York, you're not eligible for unemployment. Part of the CARES Act, the federal government took into consideration that a lot of people affected by this situation are going to be sole proprietors. independent contractors, what they call gig workers, people who maybe are artists or musicians, people that don't necessarily get paid on a W-2, so they don't actually have access to New York State unemployment, but they are severely financially affected by this disaster. So the federal government, not the state of New York, but the federal government did include them in this relief program. And they're calling it the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, PUA for short. So in this right here, I show you how to apply for the PUA. You would have to apply for New York State unemployment first. You'd have to go onto their website. I provided links below. The first link is a list of commonly asked questions and answers. That's on the New York State website, Department of Labor. And then the next link I said is a step-by-step guide of how to apply for the PUA, or the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, under the state of New York. So you have to apply through the Department of Labor, the New York State website. When you answer the questions, you'll have to put down that you are an independent contractor. They will initially deny you for unemployment benefits, and then there will be a link to apply for the PUA, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, which will be the federal program. Right now, New York State, from what I've read, the max that the federal government is giving out is $600 a week. I have a month on there, I see, I just noticed, but it is a week that you can get. But New York State is limiting the pandemic relief to the same amount as the maximum for New York State unemployment weekly amount. So the maximum for New York State weekly amount is currently $504. So I know from what I've read, New York State is only going to give $504 for the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, from what I've read. So that means when you apply, you get $504. So I provided some samples of these links right here. The first one, commonly asked questions, and the other one is how to fill out the application. You can go to those links, but I've also provided next exactly those forms, exactly those printouts and slides. So you're going to want to calculate the break-even point, because you cannot apply for the payroll protection program that we've discussed previously and the pandemic unemployment assistance. You cannot do both. It's either one or the other. If you apply for the payroll protection loan, the PPP loan that we just calculated, after the 8 weeks are up, if the situation has not resolved itself, if you're still in financial hardship and you don't have any money coming in, at that point you can then apply for the PUA, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, but you can't do them both at the same time. So you're going to decide which one works out better for you. So the maximum PUA benefits received for 8 weeks at let's say you received the $504, you got it for 8 weeks. The maximum benefit is $4,032 that you would receive. But remember, this PUA benefits are taxable income. So I estimated between federal, state, and city taxes that maybe you'd pay 20% taxes on that money. Maybe not all of it right now if you didn't have taxes withheld from it and you got the whole amount, but you know when you file your taxes next year, they're going to make you pay the money or reduce your refund by that amount. So it's going to cost you roughly $806 in taxes. So the net benefit to you is $3,225. I'm assuming a 20% tax rate. But let's just say you did the PPP loan. You did my calculation. You looked at your Schedule C. You figured out exactly what your loan amount is that you're eligible for is. And if you come out to an amount that is above $3,225, then I would say apply for the PPP loan first. And then after that, the 8 weeks is up. If the situation hasn't resolved itself or we're not back to work, then at that point you would apply for the PUA benefits, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. Okay. So right here is the links that I provided you in the previous slide, 2 slides before, the question and answers. I actually provided them here so that you can look at them if you don't have access, so you don't want to go to their website. I actually printed them off and provided the slides for them so you can read through this at your leisure. And the second link that I provided you on the applying for the PUA is this one, the Guidance for Self-Employed Individuals. It's going to show you exactly how to apply for New York State unemployment on their website. To be denied as an independent contractor, you would follow their instructions. It tells you exactly what to do. So you would look through each one of these slides or log on and print off these slides yourself. And you would follow their instructions to the letter to be denied your state unemployment, and then you would hit the link to apply for the PUA, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. So the instructions, I believe, are 4 pages, and I've provided all the slides here. That's the second slide. As you can see, it's telling you exactly what to do in these boxes. Leave blank, because you don't work for a company, so you're not going to put anything in there for your previous employer because you're not technically an employee, you're an independent contractor. And then here's the most important part. When it says the name of your last employer, you're going to make sure you put self-employed. You're going to enter your address. Then you're going to enter your personal information. And you're going to enter the last date that you worked, the last date that you actually worked for Unique, or if you worked for some other company as well as Unique, you're going to enter the last date you worked for them if it was after the last date you worked at Unique. So that concludes the presentation. I hope that's helpful. Any other additional information that becomes available, because as I said before, this is a very fluid situation and things keep changing. Treasury keeps coming out with new rules, new regulations. Right now, Treasury is voting on increasing their relief package to individuals. That's in Congress right now. So I will get more webinars out like this, or if the information is necessary, I'll get it to Unique to get it to you guys as quickly as possible. And if anyone would like to send me an email, if they have any further questions, if you need help preparing their tax return to get this application completed, we can certainly help you with that. Help you to do a mock Schedule C, we can help you with that as well. Make it as accurate as possible so that you can fill out the application. And keep in mind, the money for this fund is at this point exhausted, even though they just opened up for independent contractors on Friday, and I'm doing this right now on Thursday, and on Tuesday they released the guidance for how independent contractors are supposed to fill out these applications. I actually had a program set up already, and I had to redo it after they issued the guidance on Tuesday afternoon, because a lot of people made assumptions on what you can deduct or apply for, and it was incorrect. So I had to redo the presentation. So everyone pretty much knows that they are going to increase the size of the program and increase the amount of money available. That should come down any day. Keep an eye out for that. But as I said, if you have any questions, feel free to email me above, or you can send me a fax. Our office is not currently open to the public because we're also closed down because of the pandemic, but I'm available and I will answer all emails. All right, so feel free. Everyone, good luck and stay safe.